So Pakistan is best described as a country in South Asia. About the history, Pakistan became independent in 1947, in August 1947. Before that, we were part of the British Empire. We were a British colony. And India and Pakistan got its independence together. But just one important, like when Pakistan got independence, it was East and West Pakistan. East Pakistan is now called Bangladesh. West Pakistan is now the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. In 1971, there was a civil war and Pakistan broke into two parts, which is now Bangladesh and Pakistan.
Now I come to the question that as far as the culture of Pakistan is concerned, like what we are wearing, you can see us like Mujtaba is wearing shalwar kameez and Zaira is also doing. We are in jeans or the normal casual things. It's the culture, of course. In Pakistan, we have the different provinces. We have a different culture in different provinces. Like in Sindh, Mujtaba belong to Sindh, and in Sindh we have a different culture. We have a special sort of a cap, we call it Sindhi cap. They wear different sort of clothes. In Balochistan, it's really traditional. They have a long choga sort of things. Maybe you can compare with shalwar kameez also. In Punjab, we have a turban thing. I don't know that someone saw you. Maybe the Sikhs in India, they wear the turban. Somehow similar, but not exactly. It's a bit different. Language of Pakistan, that is Urdu. Everyone approximately in Pakistan, maybe 80-90% of people, we have 200 million plus people in Pakistan, and most of them understand Urdu.
Historically, we were a country of tribes, so it was not like a Muslim area versus a Hindu area based on which partition happened, but it was different religions living together, different cultures sort of coexisting, and all everything happened based on tribal associations. So that's why culture is an important topic to understand, because I think often there's this misconception that when you talk about Pakistan, it's all the same type of people. Maybe where I live, people do not look like that. It's not like a sea of silent women. There's a strong voice that women have, and I think the fact that out of the four panelists, two are women, and here independently without a male person to sort of bring them here kind of supports that.
As you can see, I'm a bit dressy for the occasion, but it was like on a deliberate purpose because I just wanted to like dress up in how we usually dress, like how girls usually dress in Pakistan. So you can see like I'm wearing a long shirt with a long scarf. We call it dupatta in our national language Urdu. This is how I would usually dress on a day-to-day basis in Pakistan. I mean, you can dress up or dress down, but essentially like the shirt is the same. And sometimes we wear loose trousers, so let's say in summers or in winters you can just wear tights or jeans underneath. But this is what the national dress is, and as you can see, I'm not covering my head, and I realize that, well, not everyone, but some people do believe that women cannot go about in the country without covering their heads, but actually that is not the case. But if you ever get the chance to visit the country or see it on the TV or in the movies, you would see a lot of girls just like me, who are not covering their heads but wearing a similar attire.
So I'll talk a bit about my own culture. So I'm ethnically Sindhi, but I grew up in Karachi. So Karachi is like a melting pot. It's the biggest city of Pakistan. It has all sort of four major ethnicities: Punjabi, Sindhi, Balochi, Sindhi. I also come originally from a very small village in Nadan Sindh, exactly in district Shikarpur, and there the culture is very different. What I'm wearing right now is a shalwar kameez with a koti. No one in my village would wear something like this. We dress much comfortably, and maybe here it would be inappropriate if I would wear that stuff.
And also sort of mentioned that Pakistan is a primarily rural country. That means that there are more villages than cities. And when we talk about cultural diversity, it is important to remember that the culture in cities is a lot different from the culture in villages. Villages are traditionally more traditional, and and cities are more progressive.
So, like, before traveling to Europe, I spent like 6 months in the US on a semester abroad program when I was doing my bachelor's. So I can say that I've traveled a bit like to that side of the world as well. And that is a reality that when you go out and you introduce yourself, that I'm from Pakistan, people sometimes used to get surprised that, okay, like I didn't see that coming, or I thought you must be someone like shrouded in a veil. But actually that is not the case. A lot of times I feel like the misconception arises because people hear it from the media that somehow it is the patriarchy or the men in these countries force the women to cover themselves. But if we're just talking from a purely religious standpoint, I would like to emphasize that it is not mandatory. It is not the man's job to force a woman to cover herself up. Usually, like in my country, why most of the women like to cover themselves up is because they want to do it and they feel protected that way. And I think it does give you a sense of freedom. One of the gentlemen earlier said that in Balochistan they throw acid. I would say this is not a religious problem, this is a problem of lack of education. And this only represents less than 5% of people in my country. If you were to go out in a rural area with your head not covered, it's not like, someone is waiting behind the bushes to throw acid over you. It doesn't happen. I'm telling you, it's not homeland back there. It's really not.
I think most of the time we're just trying to convince you it's not like homeland. Essentially, well, if I talk about misconceptions or prejudices, when I initially moved here, there were a few things that I encountered. One of them was that I found the job here and then I moved alone, and my husband was still in Malaysia where we were previously working. And people were completely unable to understand the fact that my husband would let me make this decision of moving and would follow me, because this was such like an attack on the assumption that you have that the man controls the woman. The other thing was that we went to look for an apartment, and the real estate agent, of course, he asked where we were from, and we said Pakistan. And then the second question automatically was, are you Muslim? And we said, yeah. And he said, oh, then why? And we started laughing. I mean, what do you say? Okay, yeah, I mean, you would find people who wear that.
Talking about the concept of hijab. The thing is, a very misconception about hijab and how we cover our body around the world is that the hijab is only for women. First thing about it, hijab is for both men and for women. Hijab is not covering the head or covering your face. It's more about wearing such clothes that do not reveal your body.
That many Pakistanis living here in Europe came here as workers. They are not very educated, and often you actually see those kinds of problems that you talk about, like the women in Pakistan are allowed to go on the street and nobody throws acid. We had a couple of honor killings where I'm from in the Pakistani and Afghani environment, and I would just say that the thing is, I think you're absolutely right, but I also think it has something to do with education, because when it turns out, when they investigated these cases, the family, the father could maybe read a little bit. The mother was from a very, very poor part of Pakistan, had absolutely no, didn't go to school at all, maybe just for a couple of years. And I think that it's a huge problem that girls are not allowed to go to school. I think if women got more educated in these parts of the world, maybe we wouldn't have the problem even that we had to discuss if you get acid thrown in your face.
Generally, so I come from a village where we call it Karo Kari. It's a problem, but in which, for example, when there is adultery, then male and female are supposed to be, that's cultural, that's an old Sindhi tradition. But I think the thing is, it's not that widespread. I think that often you see things magnified in the media. The problem is, again, that after school what happens, some of them are definitely married quite early, but I sort of think that education does, but I think the conception that girls are not allowed to go to school is not sort of that widespread as believed.
The thing is, the fact that girls aren't allowed to go to school is magnified, but the problem is that there is a lot of demand, but there's not a lot of supply. So when you talk about public education, it is literally non-existent in Pakistan. So we focus more on the fact that girls don't go to school because, globally we want to increase enrollment of girls in schools, but the problem is that also in a lot of these families, boys don't go to school either. That's why child labor is a big problem. On paper, a lot of public schools exist, but how many are actually functional and how many provide a decent education? Because, see, one of the things that I studied as an economics major was the fact that there is this global understanding that child labor is wrong, and it is wrong, but it needs to be met with the kind of supply that will enable you to work in the future. So if you have to spend money and send your kid to school, and at the end of the day, that kid grows up and cannot do anything, I mean, you have lost on earnings. And now, right now, we're talking about very small, very big, very low-income families. So when they think about the opportunity cost of sending kids to school, it's really high because they can actually send these kids to work. And I don't think any of these people are very happily doing that. Yeah. So that is a problem.
Okay, when this terror attack incident occurred, then the media is portraying a Pakistani guy, 23-year-old Naveed Baloch, is a prime suspect. And on Tuesday, and then one day later, on Tuesday night, okay, this guy is released by the police because he is a suspect, but they don't get any evidence against him. A Muslim, a Pakistani guy, and then they also said there is an Afghan guy, or the Pakistani guy, and the Afghan guy, and a refugee. They painted with the same brush all the day, and when I talked to my friends, we expected some apology from someone.
I of course dropped my child to school in the morning, and I could hear whispers like, yeah, I'm Pakistan, I feel like. Yeah, and so this is the kind of sort of whispers that sort of, it's different when you live as a Pakistani or as a Muslim. And I actually, for example, when I go to the mosque on Friday, I wear this dress and everything, so I actually feel proud of representing my culture. But again, if it's portrayed in a way which is sort of, it taints and sort of misleads, and I think the idea of an apology, I think that when you are naming a nationality and when you're naming a guy, especially taking a specific guy's name, I think an apology was needed. You should not take the name of a person. You should not take the name of the nationality before things have actually materialized or before you have concrete evidence. That's my thing.
I totally understand and appreciate that what you're saying is from your point of view, but I have to say that my perspective is completely different from yours. Asking for an apology, that's fucking bullshit, man. What did the German state ever do to Pakistanis? Maybe I'm wrong, maybe in your opinion or in your experience it's been different. But in my experience, the German state has been nothing but welcoming to me. I think the way the German state, and not just the state, the German media, and not just the media, but the German citizens, the way that they've handled it, it's, I think, highly commendable that they did not jump to conclusions, and it could have been much, much, much worse. And
the Germans think of themselves as more civilized. I think they should show that kind of civilization, and they want to show that civilization. And I think no one becomes small about apologizing. I think they did something that was a mistake. You can't disagree with that. If you apologize for a mistake, there's nothing wrong. You won't get through. That was my point. Thank you.
I don't think anybody needs to apologize to me because they reported something that happened. And I was not victimized. I thought I might be because of where I'm from, but I wasn't. And that is the one thing I really love about Berlin, that the people here are very, very open-minded.
I believe that, I think that this is something that probably we all can relate to when we're living in our, let's say, homeland or country. We're sort of like, when we grow up, we become more and more empathetic towards it. I lived there, there's nothing special, really special about it. And I mean, when I used to live there, I also every time when I would read news and media or, on investigative websites, and I would always think, we have so much to improve and to work on, and I don't see how it's gonna get any better. And it's like, what I see is just like a very gloomy picture of what the situation in the country is. But ever since I've moved out of the country, and then I basically actually heard so many good things that have been going on in Pakistan. So many people who are busy in different sectors of life, and not only in Pakistan but also abroad. And then that sort of makes you think that instead of just whining about there's nothing good going on or there's nothing is improving, what can I do to make it better? So definitely yes, my perspective about the country has changed. I have come to meet so many people that belong to Pakistan and have been working in other countries outside that have been doing so much good work that it just boggles my mind.
Meals. I think I'm a big foodie, so the Germans tend, and other cultures of course, they want to eat the food fast. It's not like we cook it in a hurry and we want to slowly cook the meats for hours and hours and hours. And it's something that I learned, that people also want to make the food really quickly and don't care about cooking it slowly. The other thing that I really think that was what I learned is, of course, my work ethic changed. I think in Pakistan, it was a combination of work, but also a lot of rest. Like when we used to chill, we really used to chill.
On a lighter note, but there's nothing changed for me. Like what I'm doing there, I'm doing the same thing, and mostly not getting paid.